Agile project manager or agile ways of working require you to work on any software or any product or any project through phases of increments basically. So you basically take the project and you start making decisions based on what you know now.
Hello and welcome to our new episode of Education Mentors. I'm your host Rizwan Khalid, and today I'm in conversation with Mr. Dawood Ali. Mr. Dawood Ali is a digital product and agile coach, and he's London-based. Mr. Dawood Ali has actually worked for a lot of big brand names such as Expedia, Wiley, Tesco, and HMRC. Today we'll get to learn from Dawood around agile and around Scrum and some of the differences. Your journey, your professional journey, and how you've come to be the digital project and agile coach.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me. Let me start with my education first. So I've got a computer science degree and I've got a master's in software engineering. After completing my master's, I joined a local company in London as a software developer. So I did software development for a couple of years, then moved into some lead roles, lead developer, and then into some business analysis role. And then from there, I ended up in product management. That's where my agile career began, basically. So in agile and product management career. I built some digital products for Expedia, Wiley, Tesco, also FIFA World Cup as well in Qatar. And I'm working as a consultant now for the last 5 years in London, where I provide consultancy on agile, product management, agile project management, and program management. And I help develop and deliver digital products, programs, projects for companies, basically.
Thank you very much for that. Now, there are a lot of buzzwords in the market. People talk about agile, people talk about Scrum, people talk about digital, but a lot of people are out there, they're unable to differentiate between
Yes.
these things. So can you tell us in a bit more simple terms, what is agile and what are we
Okay.
looking at over here?
Now that's a very good question. Despite agile being used in many years now in the market all over the world, there is still about confusion. Even people who are to work on agile and they work every day on it, some of them, I'm not saying everyone, some of them still don't know the difference, what really is agile and Scrum and what that difference is basically. So before I answer that, what is agile, let me take you back to the origin of agile. So really, without going into a lot of complexity and details, there was a group of 18 to 20 developers in the United States. They were really experienced developers, software developers. They were really tired of old software development practices. They were not happy with old software development practices. They were not comfortable with that. They thought something needs to change. So among them, they decided to go on a weekend away from the lights of the city, some resort in mountains. And when they came out with some values and principles. Now those values and principles, what we call today agile. So it's not methodology, it's not project management, it's mindset, it's set of values and principles. For example, they also produced what we call Agile Manifesto. What Agile Manifesto was, some values and principles. For example, individuals and interactions, our processes and tools should be preferred. So what they came was like, process and tools is important. They are important in software development, but individual interactions are more important. Also, if you remember traditional practices, people used to do heavy documentation, and documentation is important. But what they came up with is documentation is important, especially the comprehensive documentation. But working software is more important. Similarly, customer collaboration, responding to changing requirements because marketing is changing all the time. Inspection, adopting practices, improving ourselves, improving teams is all part of agile mindset. And this is what Agile means. Now, there are many implementation of Agile and many framework of Agile. Most famous are Scrum, but some people also take Kanban and XP practices, etc. But most famous of Agile implementation is called Scrum, and it's called a Scrum framework. Why Scrum framework is Agile? Because Scrum framework follows Agile values and principles.
It brings us nicely on to our next question as to how does Agile differ in its practice from a normal project management environment. So a lot of people basically practice Prince, or a lot of people would go down the line of something similar to Prince basically. So how would Agile or the values of Agile being practiced through Scrum would differ from those?
Right. So let me try to answer it simply. So if we go back to traditional project management practices, what really happens in traditional project management practices is you have big phases. You have this, when you run a project, you have this analysis phase. And then you have, for example, design phase. Then you have this development phase. Then you have this testing phase, and then launch or support phase after that. So let's say, you think of yourself as a customer and you want to build a website, or you want to build any software, right? And you give, okay, here's £1 million. You go develop this software for me. Traditional project management practices, what normally would happen is a project manager will form a team, and the first phase will kick where you will do detailed analysis. So there will be teams of analysts. They will go start analyzing the requirements of the project. Let's say if they take a couple of months, then the next phase will begin where you start doing the design phase. That will take probably a couple of months, because when you really have in design, you take the requirements, you try to put some design technical specification so that it's ready for development teams basically. You go to the next phase and development starts. Now 6 or 7 months are already gone. So as an investor or as a customer, you want to see what value I got for my money.
Yeah.
Right?
Precisely.
So, but if you ask me at that point, where is my software? I wouldn't have anything to give you. I would have only documents to give you. I will have only a couple of, technical jargon specifications and things to give you, which is not value for money for me. It's maybe value for others. It's not completely waste exercise, but at the same time, I want to see the money I put in, what you have developed so far. That's the plus. One of the drawback you can think of. Now there are obviously, don't get me wrong, there are probably situations where traditional project management will be more suited to that, because Agile is not a silver bullet. It wouldn't solve all the problems for you. We'll discuss that later, what sort of program is more suited for that. But in this particular example, it's for him, he would love to see some website features which he didn't say. So his customer satisfaction goes down a bit basically. Plus, let's say the same customer, let's say example, you see a feature somewhere else that you really would like to see. Now you go back to the project manager to say, hey project manager, I love that feature, I've seen it somewhere, let's put them in. And he was, no, we already developed our analysis. We already completed our analysis. We already completed our design. We are at development phase. That's going to be scope creep. We can't do that. We have to wait for this to complete, blah, blah, blah. That means it's quite rigid. Now that's traditional project management and some of the shortcomings of that. Now, as I say, for some projects, it may suit basically. But for this particular instance, as you can see, it's a bit, it's not ideal. Now compare that to Agile project management. Agile project management or Agile ways of working require you to work on any software or any product or any project through phases of increments basically. So you basically take the project and you start making decisions based on what you know now. You try to take the project, start small phases, small pieces of that software, and you work on that on week or bi-weekly iterations of what we call sprints. So let's take 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, you try to take a small piece, you try to develop it. Within that 2 weeks period or iteration period, it's normally 2 weeks or 4 weeks, You take the piece, you analyze, design, develop, and test and ship. Then you take the next piece, you take the next piece. Through series of iteration, you complete your projects. So let's say if you take the same example, it's 6 months. If you ask an agile team, where is what you would develop for me, an agile team would have given you some features. It would not have been complete website, but in 6 months time, you've gone through many iterations, and you would have some working software iteration, because at the end of every sprint, you ideally need to produce shippable software, which is done, tested, developed, etc. And also, beauty of that is, once you're working on something, you can also start planning for the next phase. You start working on that phase, you plan for the next phase.
So right. If my understanding is correct, this is a phased approach to delivery. But yes, it's a phased approach to delivery right from the word go, pretty much.
Yes.
Which then gives, which keeps the client's expectations going. Yes. And keeps the client informed. Yes. About what's going on, and also have something working to show for.
Yes. Yes.
At that stage.
Also, just one comment before you go to next question, it promotes customer involvement. So ideally, agile teams, what they need to do is, after every sprint, they should do a demo of what they accomplish and involve customer in it. The beauty of that is that the customer is involved in your development all the time.
Throughout
Customers
the process,
is involved, is informed, so it knows what is up to, what value is getting for his money.
That brings us to our next question, as you mentioned and alluded to earlier, the difference between Agile and Scrum. Of what I've understood so far from what you're saying in terms of the journey, Agile is a set of principles and Scrum is how you implement it. But can you actually explain a little bit more?
Right. So Scrum is a framework which follows Agile, basically. You can say it's Agile implementation. Now it's got set of, what do you say, method or sort of ceremonies and roles that exist in Scrum. Then if you implement that in your organization, most of Agile values and principles will be embedded into that as well.
Right, got you.
So, for example, and it's very simple to follow. It's got a couple of ceremonies. So I will start with roles first, then we'll go to ceremonies. So there are 3 roles essentially, very simply. One is product owner, second is your Scrum Master, and third is development team in Scrum. Product owner is the voice of the business. Product owner represent business. Product owner talk to the business, come up with the requirements, which we call in Agile backlog. You often heard the term backlog, product backlog. That's basically backlog. Product owner is responsible for managing and prioritizing requirements. Product backlog is nothing but list of requirements prioritized in terms of value. And when I say in terms of value, what it means is the top requirements on top of the backlog deliver more value, for the customer or for the project, basically. That allow them to complete, allow to deliver value for the customer. And there is Scrum Master. Scrum Master is a facilitator, a servant leader for the team, of the Scrum team. And that basically enforces Agile values and principles into the team.
Got you.
And it's a sort of servant leader, facilitator, your impediments remover. You can call these terms of that. And then you come to development team. A development team within Scrum is normally 4 to 6 people. And it's got all the resources it needs to develop a software. For example, a typical Scrum team would be 4 developers, 3 or 4 developers, a QA, and a designer inside it, or maybe other roles as well. It doesn't have to be typical developer roles, right? It could be any role. So let's look at a team as a cross-functional team which has got all the skills and experience necessary to ship and develop that product. So essentially these are the roles. Then there are other ceremonies that we do in Scrum that helps you deliver an Agile approach or to develop software. I will name them. The first is sprint stand-ups. Let's call it stand-ups. Daily stand-ups or daily huddles or morning stand-ups, the various name. It normally happens first day in a thing, and where is time boxed to 15 minutes. and where people talk, everyone in the team speak about what they've done yesterday, what they're going to do today, and are there any blockers. This is how, no, it doesn't have to run that way, but most of the team runs that way. So this meeting allows Scrum team to be organized, to see where they are, what they were doing yesterday, what they're doing today, what the vision of the sprint is. The sprint is basically 2 weeks time box, as I faced earlier. There's also a Scrum grooming session where you basically groom the next set of requirements coming to the next sprint, which we call user stories. Again, I'm not going to go into too much details about that. Then there is sprint planning, which happens every 2 weeks, where we plan what stories we're going to work, what requirements we're going to work on next. There's also a sprint demo session in which we team demo what they accomplished during the sprint and to the customer, and everyone is welcome, everyone is joined, because agile teams are very transparent and they're open and visible, so they don't hide anything, so they show everything what they accomplished to anyone who is interested. And then also this very important meeting called sprint review, which called retrospective session, What really happens retrospective is the team discuss what's working for them well, what's not working for them well, and what team can do to change it for the next so they can improve. So really, if you look at that, it's self-organizing. So what we help, Agile promotes self-organizing teams. So every week they look at themselves, what mistakes they're making, so they don't make next sprint, and also improve next time when they do it. So during the sprint, if they keep doing sprint, what you see is gradually team performance and productivity keep increasing.
So yeah, it is absolutely fantastic how you walked us through the agile development process and how it basically works through the teams. So can you actually tell us a little bit more, as you've alluded to just now, how does agile promote the sort of team collaboration? Because I've heard from a lot of people that agile as a principle or as a set of values promote the team collaboration. Yes. You shared a little bit of light on that.
As I discussed, there are various sessions which require team to work together. Now, traditionally, obviously not everyone is same, but traditionally what happens is, if you ask a typical developer in the past, a developer is interested in his own work. So give me a piece of requirement, I will go develop it and I will give you. So everything else is black box for me. Well, not everyone is same, but that's how normally developers operated in the past. Many of them, not everyone, as I say. But the nature of agile implementation, the nature of a Scrum is structured in a way that is really encouraged, and it sort of forces you to work together. For example, if you are sitting in a sprint planning meeting, right, where product owner is discussing requirement, what they're working towards, so everyone is participating in that, and they also have to sometimes estimate their piece of work as well, and estimate is taken from every person as well. In a stand-up, everyone is speaking about what they've done yesterday, what they're going to do today, and what is different. Also, they're doing analysis, designing, development in the same, most of the time in the same sprint as well, right? You could argue that sometimes requirements happen early, but you can always prep early for the requirements, but the real meat comes when you start cooking, right?
Exactly.
So when they start cooking, they develop, they really have to work together to make sure that they follow the sprint goal, and sprint goal is to accomplish a feature or sprint something.
This is very interesting, because as you've mentioned, in this particular team or team environment, you've got the customer involvement, you've got the team involvement, the developer involvement, and the Scrum Master basically facilitating this environment. So can you elaborate a little bit more about the role of customer, the role of business owner in this particular way of working?
Right. Now, customer, most of the activities I'm talking to you about in these sprint planning, stand-ups, grooming sessions, customer don't get involved in nitty-gritty of development, but customer does get involved where at the end of when they develop something, when they demo, but more importantly, customer speaks to product owner all the time. The customer is basically a person who finances your project, right? You finance it could be external, it could be internal customer, and the team always, through demos, giving him the surety, or what we call it, comfort that yes, the money you invested into this, we are giving you value out of that. Also, product owner is the voice of the business. So product owner is the one who speaks to them all the time, understanding what the mindset is, what the requirements are, and then converts them into product backlog. Also prioritize it in terms of value. So what knows what's important, most important for customer to deliver first and what's second and all that. But also it sometimes it's not always about what delivery will be product customer led. Sometimes it's technical constraint as well. For example, if I need a piece of technical module to be developed first to deliver value, I will deliver that first because that feature will become enabler for that particular product feature which customers are interested in.
So this is a very customer involved or customer
Yes.
journey involved environment.
Absolutely.
Where you are taking requirements as it gets along, and where the customer is so involved.
Yes.
That once you deliver the final delivery, whatever it may be, it is very much to the satisfaction and perfection of the customer requirement per se.
Yeah, because
So
you always, sorry to cut you off,
please.
but you're always involving customer in throughout the journey, right? So you reduce that risk, right? Compare that to traditional project management where customer gets at the end demo what to develop. Customer sees something, oh my God, I'm not happy with that. I didn't need that. So in this way, every 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever the sprint size is, customer saying, really envisioning what his in mind was, and customer can get feedback. That feedback then comes back to the product owner, to the team, to the product owner, it goes back to the backlog. So we are learning always, getting feedback, so we're going to this iteration loop. Basically.
This actually is quite fascinating, and it brings us neatly into our next question as well. And I have actually noticed during my career as well how things are changing, how the requirements can change suddenly, how the companies can go up and down and the requirements change suddenly. For the changing requirements through this methodology of working, because traditional project management basically initializes that project, and after that you are meant to do that project over whatever period of time. And things change, the world change, the requirements can change. How does this agile process handle the changing requirements from the customer standpoint?
As I discussed, so let me start with that. There's a time box sprint, right? It's a 2 weeks or 4 weeks traditionally. So when teams take the work in sprints, in sprint planning, so they only care about what at that period of time. Obviously, they care about the whole project. For when they come, they say, okay, this is a piece of functionality as a team we are going to develop in next 2 weeks. They normally don't change that in that 2 weeks period unless there is some genuine case to change that. But 99% of the time is that how it works, it should always be there. So because when they take piece of work, they create the sprint goal, and everyone in that 2 weeks period try to achieve that goal. Right. Now, you're running through phases of work and suddenly customer thinks that, oh, that's something feature. For example, you have Apple Pay in your country and suddenly you have Google Pay also involved. Now, what this means that having a new payment method coming in means more revenue. So there are features that team is working on, also important, but you feel that if we delay that, then we will lose revenue. So what needs to happen in that, what he needs to do is work with the product owner and the team to schedule that feature into next or maybe following sprint, work on that requirement, and then when the next sprint comes, team picks up that feature first and start working on that and develop that. That means you can always change at any point, right? Directions, the sprint or products can change, depends on what new features that deliver value.
It's a continuous modulation. It's like a continuous phased approach which you can use to develop and add new features as per the time goes along, and it kind of works that way. So what are the key misconceptions that people have about Agile and Scrum and this way of working?
The first misconception I already addressed, people think is, Agile is types of methodologies, types of project management, but it's really simply is a mindset, is set of values and principles, and anyone can have this mindset, and you can I try to apply that mindset in my daily life as well. I quite like that. So, and as I said, value customer satisfaction, responding to change, welcome changing requirements, interactions is better, all that. So all this, it becomes part of package. So that's basically, Agile is nothing but set of values and principles. I think other misconception about Agile is Agile will solve all your problems. So once my software development team is not performing, as soon as I put Agile in, suddenly the productivity will go up and all that. So I think it doesn't really translate really that quickly as people believe it would and all that, because it's a cultural change, it's a mindset change, it takes time. And also some people try to dictate agile teams. Agile is, teams are normally self-organized, they're self-managing, they're reviewing themselves, expecting, adopting, as I said. Every 2 weeks they're doing retrospective and all that. So the management, when they're thinking about introducing agile, they need to put that trust on the team as well. They need to give them that environment which keeps them motivated and happy to deliver that. And the best and motivated teams deliver best software.
So how would you, advise the organizations who would like to change to the agile methodology from their traditional way of work?
Right. I think the first approach, the first phase of that is the organization need to think about strategically why they want to introduce agile into this. And for example, for agility, obviously that's common to improve communication, to improve satisfaction, to give value to the business more often. These are the valid reasons, and that involve people to basically also the nature of projects as well. If the nature of the project is complex, Agile is really suited for that, because you can break down this complexity into smaller phases in iteration, right? So these are reasons. But when you start on that, start small. Don't try to take Agile into an entire organization. Start with one team, take one software, take one product, or maybe a small feature, create a separate team, try to run that Agile, see how it's going for you. And then once it start working, you feel they're delivering value, then phase out to another team and the third and the fourth and all that. So that's probably the advice I would do. So don't expect miracles, but be sure that it will definitely give you value if you stick to it for a couple of months.
With that, thank you very much, Dawood, for coming to our show and letting us know all of this great information. With that, we bring our episode to a close. If you found our content useful, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel. I would like to thank you all for watching.